Cooking had always been my quiet rebellion. While other kids played outside, I was tucked away in our tiny kitchen, watching the way steam swirled like silk around a simmering pot. I learned the language of flavors before I learned how to ride a bike. Food was my escape, my love, my voice in a house where I often felt invisible. My name is Aria, and I had spent years building a humble but heartfelt cooking brand, Flavors of Aria. It started as a food blog during college, then slowly bloomed into a modest Instagram following, local farmers market appearances, and finally, small batch meal kits that I made in my apartment. Everything I made was authentic, homegrown, honest. That mattered to me. But in my family, authenticity wasn't something anyone cared for. My younger sister Sonia was the golden child. Always louder, prettier, and hungrier for attention. My parents catered to her every whim, literally and emotionally. If I was the storm in the kitchen, Sonia was the eye of it, untouched and admired. She had never cooked a day in her life. She once burned instant noodles and blamed the pot. So imagine my shock when I received an email from the Metro City Food Expo, a prestigious local event for rising culinary stars, saying, "Thank you for your application. Flavors by Aria has already been submitted and approved. See you at booth 17. What? I never submitted anything. At first, I thought it was a mistake, a typo maybe. I replied immediately asking for clarification. 2 days later, no response. Instead, I started receiving confusing DMs from people I didn't recognize. Loved your Thai basil chicken last week. Do you deliver to Sector 15? Hey, your meal service has the wrong phone number on your website. I didn't even have a website for my meal service yet. Just an order form shared through Instagram, a knot twisted in my gut. I searched for Flavors by Aria online, and there it was. A whole website. Bright, glossy, and eerily familiar. My face, cropped from my Instagram, my photos, my food, my brand, but none of it posted by me. It listed a phone number, my parents' landline. That's when the panic gave way to a cold, numb feeling. I drove to my parents' house the next morning, heart pounding. My mother greeted me at the door like nothing had happened. "Beta, you're here early. Want chai?" I stormed past her into the kitchen. "Sanya's asleep," my mom added, frowning at my expression. "What's the matter?" I turned my phone screen to her. "What is this, Mom?" She glanced at the website like she barely cared. "Oh, that? Isn't it lovely? Sonia worked really hard on it." "She's using my name," I said. "My photos. My recipes. That's my brand." My dad, sipping coffee at the table, piped in, "It's all in the family. What's the harm?" I stared at them. "The harm is that you've let her steal from me. This is my work. She doesn't even cook." "Don't be so dramatic." My mother snapped. "You should be happy she's showing interest in something for once. Besides, you were never making money from this." My chest tightened, because I was doing it the right way. My mother sighed, suddenly annoyed. "Look, Aria, she needed a project. Something to boost her CV. She just took a few of your ideas and made them better. You should be proud." I was speechless. My father added, "And now, with the Food Expo, this could be big for both of you." "I never submitted to the Food Expo," I said through clenched teeth. "She did, using my name." Silence. Then my sister came down the stairs, in leggings and a fake Channel hoodie, yawning. She saw me and smirked. "Oh, chef. You stole my work," I snapped. She blinked. "I borrowed it. And anyway, you weren't doing anything with it. You act like you're Gordon Ramsay. Chill." I felt like the floor had opened beneath me. That night, I cried in my car, not because they fooled the world, but because my own family saw my work as disposable. They had packaged my passion like it was a hand-me-down coat, something to dress Sonia in when she needed attention again. The worst part, she was now going to represent me at the Food Expo. My inbox kept getting more confused emails. A couple of real customers even left negative reviews, blaming me for cold food and unresponsive messages. My reputation was crumbling, and I hadn't even done anything. Friends began asking awkward questions. "Hey, didn't you say you were still planning your food kit launch? I thought your stall was going to be vegetarian." Everything I had built was slipping from my hands. I tried reaching out to the expo organizers again, but the deadline had passed. They had already assigned booths. The email contact was cold, impersonal. It was done. My parents had always treated me like the responsible one, the good daughter, who could handle being overlooked, who didn't need praise, who could be quiet and make room for Sonia. But this time, They had stolen my soul's work. They had watched her drape herself in my identity and cheered. I sat in the dark that night, fingers scrolling through the stolen website. And for the first time in my life, I didn't just feel hurt. I felt angry. Betrayal has a flavor too. It's bitter. But I was about to cook something even stronger. Something unforgettable. Sanya posted daily on Instagram, uploading photos of my dishes like she'd made them herself. My captions, my carefully styled plates, even my custom spice mix labels were all there, just slightly edited to remove any trace of me. My own voice, my food, felt like they'd been hijacked by a stranger wearing my skin. My parents, they acted like everything was fine. My mother even had the nerve to say, "We're so proud of you girls working together." I stopped answering her calls. I wanted to scream, to tell the world what was happening. But how could I? If I posted online, I'd look bitter, jealous even. To outsiders, Sanya was the brilliant young entrepreneur, and I was the sister in the shadows. No one would believe the truth unless I had proof. So, I started collecting it. Every night after work, I dug through Sanya's fake brand. I took screenshots of my original blog posts and compared them to the ones on her site. I saved time-stamped photos. Mine uploaded months ago, hers only recently. Even customer DMs that had accidentally reached my inbox instead of hers. One woman asked me, confused, "Why was your biryani completely different last week? I loved the original one you posted in January. This new version tasted like supermarket curry paste." I thanked her, and saved that too. The more I uncovered, the angrier I became. But with the Food Expo just days away, it felt like the world was cheering for the wrong area. My reputation was getting muddy while my sister strutted around in my apron like she'd earned it. One night, I returned to the fake website and noticed something new. Catch us at the Metro City Food Expo, Booth Fair 17. Come taste our best-selling creamy korma and mango rice bowl. My signature dish. I'd spent 2 months perfecting that recipe for a charity event last winter. It was delicate, slightly tangy, with layers of spice that built slowly. I remembered how people had lined up for second helpings. I'd even written a blog about the story behind it. How I used to make it for a lonely elderly neighbor when I lived alone during the pandemic. Now it was listed under Chef Sanya's Creations. It felt like watching someone steal your memories and sell them as souvenirs. I knew I couldn't stop her from attending the expo, at least not yet. But I could start showing up where it hurt, so I visited the expo grounds the day before the event. Just to see, just to observe. The venue was buzzing with last-minute setup. Booths were being decorated, vendors were testing equipment, and branded banners hung from every beam in the ceiling. I found booth 17. My stomach clenched. There she was, Sanya, in a rented chef's jacket that looked too stiff, with my logo. Yes, my actual logo, printed onto the fabric. Our parents hovered nearby, beaming like she was graduating from culinary school. I kept my distance, blending in among the early visitors. Sanya didn't see me, but I saw everything. She was barking instructions to a tired-looking guy in a hairnet, barely touching the food being prepped. Her meals were all catered, cheap, greasy versions of my recipes, made in bulk by some unknown cloud kitchen. Then I saw someone else approach her booth, a man with a badge hanging around his neck. Expo Inspector, Quality Control. He introduced himself with a clipboard and a quiet smile. "Just a quick standard check," he said, looking at her setup. Sanya, ever the actress, smiled brightly. "Of course, I make everything from scratch. Family recipes. So authentic, I couldn't help myself." I stepped closer. The inspector asked, "Do you have any documentation of your kitchen or food safety permits? Or prep process photos?" Sanya stuttered. "Oh, it's mostly in the cloud. My sister handles all the back-end stuff." My heart stopped. There it was again, blaming me, using me. But the inspector nodded. "And your sister is?" She smiled sweetly. "Arya, she's the co-owner. She couldn't be here today." I clenched my fists. Enough was enough. That night, I printed every piece of evidence I had: my recipe logs, dated blog posts, screenshots of the original photos, confused DMs from customers, my Instagram timestamps, everything. I organized them neatly into a folder. And then, on impulse, I wrote a letter, a real one, ink on paper, to the expo director, explaining the situation, not as a rant, but with quiet strength. "My name is Arya Mera. I am a chef, writer, and creator of the food brand Flavors of Arya, which is currently being misrepresented by my sister Sanya Mera under a copycat brand she calls Flavors by Arya. She has used my name, recipes, photographs, and reputation without permission. I have attached proof for your review. I attached the folder. I mailed one copy to the Expo office. The second I delivered early the next morning, before Sonia even arrived to set up. And then I waited. The day of the Expo arrived. I didn't go. I stayed home, pacing, scrolling, refreshing the event's social media pages, watching the live story updates. Booth 17 looked perfect in the photos. Her food looked like mine. Her smile was bright. Our parents were standing beside her proud. But behind the scenes, I knew there was now a shadow cast over everything. Then, around 4 p.m., something changed. An Expo volunteer posted a now deleted story showing a commotion at booth 17, people gathering, raised voices, someone holding a folder. And in the corner of the shot, I spotted him, the inspector, holding my evidence. I stared at my phone breathless. Something was happening. I didn't know what yet. But for the first time in weeks, I felt it. The day before had passed like a fog. After submitting the folder, I'd forced myself not to hope too much. I had been betrayed so thoroughly by the people who were supposed to love me. I didn't trust anyone anymore, let alone a Food Expo inspector I'd never met. But now it seemed something had cracked open. I returned the call. Mira, the voice on the other end said, polite but firm. I'm glad you called back. I've gone through the materials you submitted. There are serious concerns, I swallowed. Concerns like what? A pause. Well, he said, it appears your sister and your parents presented a business under your name and likeness, submitted falsified brand documents, and offered catered food from a commercial cloud kitchen while claiming it was homemade. He let that sit for a moment. I closed my eyes. They've done more than that. They took my identity, my work. It's not just wrong, it's personal. I understand, he said, voice softening. We'll need you to come in today. Quietly, we're conducting a deeper review before the Expo's final round of judging and press coverage begins. 4 hours later, Expo HQ tent. I walked into the Expo headquarters with the original recipe binder clutched in my hands. The one I'd built over 4 years. Each page was smudged with fingerprints, oil stains, even notes in the margins from late night tastings. Chef's handwriting, memories, proof. Mr. Arvind, the inspector, greeted me with a tired but warm smile. Thank you for coming. In the back of the room, a few committee members sat at a long table. One of them, a sharp-looking woman in a navy kurta, looked like she'd seen war. She introduced herself as Tanvi Rao, the lead judge and an award-winning food journalist. I've seen this kind of thing before, she said quietly, flipping through my binder. People chasing fame off someone else's fire. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. They saw the truth in my silence. Together, we laid out a timeline. I pulled up Google Drive timestamps, meal photos taken from my apartment kitchen, and a photo from 2 years ago of me and my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Sharma, eating the original creamy korma and mango rice bowl. This dish wasn't just food, I explained. It was healing. She lost her husband during COVID. We ate together every Friday for nearly a year. Tanvi's eyes softened. They reviewed everything. Quiet murmurs filled the room. And then, Arvind said, would like to ask your sister and your parents to return this afternoon for a re-evaluation. But you don't need to be present for that part. You've done enough. No, I said firmly. I want to see it. The performance crumbles at 3:45 p.m. I stood behind a partition wall in the Expo Hall's VIP tent. Booth 17 was just on the other side, decked out in fairy lights and printed banners. Fake accolades, my fake smile. Sanya walked in like she was born to be famous. Parents in tow, sunglasses on, chewing gum. Not a care in the world. I watched her hand a bowl of bland, looking curry to a judge with fake enthusiasm. This dish is special to me, she cooed. It's my grandmother's recipe. I nearly choked. She had never even met our grandmother. She died before Sanya was born. That was it. Tanvi and Arvind approached the booth together. I stepped out behind them. Sanya turned and froze. For a moment, her face twisted into something feral. Then she forced a smile. Oh, Arya, what are you doing here? I didn't answer. Tanvi stepped in. Mira, we have some questions about the authenticity of your brand. My parents started to speak, but Arvind raised a hand. Please, let her answer. Sanya's charm slipped. I'm just continuing my sister's work. She gave me permission, sort of. It was a mutual thing. No, I said, finally speaking. I didn't. The tension was thick enough to cut with a cleaver. Tanvi placed both versions of the recipe on the table. Mine handwritten, Sanya's printed in fancy fonts. Care to explain why these are identical down to the typo in turmeric? Asanya's lips trembled. I helped develop it. I just didn't write it down. Arvind handed her a photo. This was posted on your business Instagram last month, but the original version was published by your sister over a year ago. On a public blog. Silence. My mother tried to interject again. It was just a family project. Why are we making this a legal matter? Tanvi turned to her, cold and professional. Because plagiarism, fraud, and misrepresentation are not family projects, ma'am. They are violations of Expo policy, and potentially the law. Sanya turned pale. Arvind said, effective immediately, Booth 17 is disqualified from the Expo. The silence that followed was heavier than a thunderstorm. No yelling, no drama, just the sound of lies unraveling. And then, Tanvi turned to me. Would you like a chance to serve your version of the dish to our judges? I blinked. Now, she smiled. You've waited long enough. At noon, the Expo committee posted a formal statement. We regret to inform attendees that Booth 17 has been permanently disqualified due to brand misrepresentation and identity fraud. We extend our full support to Chef Arya Mehra, the rightful creator of the dishes presented, and applaud her integrity, resilience, and artistry. Below it, a carousel of photos showed me, smiling awkwardly, presenting my dish, shaking hands with judges. Sanya's name wasn't mentioned once, but the comments. Oh, they remembered. Wet. That sister stole all her recipes. That's disgusting. I followed the fake account. I feel betrayed. Can we get the real Arya's contact info? Her food looks amazing. This is the kind of quiet power I love. Grace and fire. I didn't reply to any of them. Not yet. I let the truth speak for itself. The call that finally came that evening, my phone rang. It was my mother. I stared at the screen for a long moment before picking up. Her voice was strained. Arya, what have you done? I laughed softly, not bitter, just tired. I told the truth. You embarrassed your sister in front of everyone. She's devastated. She embarrassed herself. She was just trying to build something. Using my name, my story, my food. She lied, and you helped her. There was silence on the other end. No apology. Just the same twisted discomfort they always showed when things didn't center around Sanya. I continued, quietly, I was never enough for you unless I was silent. But that ends now. And I hung up. She hasn't called again. Neither has my father. Sanja tried to DM me days later. You could have just talked to me. You didn't have to humiliate me. I blocked her, not because I was angry anymore, but because I had nothing left to say. Building from ashes, in the weeks that followed, things changed, fast. I was invited to appear on a local podcast about food ethics and authenticity. A popular chef reposted my korma recipe. Even a startup investor offered seed money for a meal kit subscription box based on my original dishes. This time, it would be real, branded properly, legally registered. I called it, Rooted by Arya. Because that's what my journey was about. Not just reclaiming my name, but remembering who I was at the root. A girl who used to cook to survive, to cope, to speak. Now, I was cooking to grow. I worked 12-hour days building the business from scratch again. Shot the photos. Hired a part-time assistant. Rented a licensed kitchen. The orders started small, but steady. People believed in the story because it wasn't just drama. It was proof that integrity wins. A letter that meant everything one afternoon. I received a handwritten note in the mail. The envelope had no return address, but the script was elegant. Inside was a folded letter on crisp paper. The signature at the bottom said Tanvi Rao. Dear Arya, I've judged hundreds of dishes. Tasted food from the best kitchens across India and beyond, but it's rare I taste something that makes me stop and remember who I used to be. Your dish did that. It wasn't just the flavor. It was the soul. It reminded me why I started cooking in the first place. Why food isn't just business. It's belonging. Never let anyone steal your story again. The world needs it. Root for yourself. Always. Tanvi, I kept that letter on my desk, not as validation, but as a reminder revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's living better, building stronger, thriving without needing to destroy. The final scene months passed. Rooted by Arya was now delivering to over 200 homes in the city. I was featured in a regional culinary digest. I even got invited to mentor students at a hospitality school. One crisp September morning, I stood outside a cozy studio kitchen, preparing to host my first livestream cooking class. Lights on, cameras ready, spice jars lined up like familiar friends. As I adjusted my mech, the producer asked me, "Want to test your intro?" I nodded, heart fluttering. I looked into the lens and smiled. Not like a girl who needed approval. Not like a woman betrayed, but like someone who had taken the broken pieces and made something whole. "Hi, I'm Arya Mira. Welcome to my kitchen. Today, I'm going to teach you how to make something real." The red light blinked on, and I began.